bobsled track is approximately 1 mile long. As an athlete rides down this track, they'll encounter 4 to 5 to upwards of 6 G's of pressure and go over 90 miles per hour. If you've never been in a bobsled, which being in Douglasville, Georgia, I'm sure most of you have it, it feels like getting put in a metal garbage can and kicked down a rocky hill. So if some of this speech goes awry, it's because I've taken one too many hits to the head. Bobsled is a fast and furious sport, but unlike Cool Runnings taught us, we actually do drive the sled. There's no leaning involved that navigates the sled down these twists and turns down the ice. It is actually driven by pilots like myself. So if you can imagine, we pull on our ropes, which drives the sled. We pull left and right to steer the sled left and right. We navigate these tracks at rapid speeds, and we have to react in an instant in order to avoid crashes and other disasters. Every track in the world is different. This is the track in Winterberg, Germany. Also the track I won the World Championships in this year. So it is also one of my favorite tracks in the world. Every track has some similarities, but yes, there are some differences. There are some similarities in curves, but those differences make every track unique. Every single day as a pilot, we walk up the track and we study the track. We study the curves, and it's one of my favorite moments in bobsled. We look at the ice, we look at the profiles, and really define what we have to do every single time we go down the track. And every single time, it's different. We're talking inches between the difference of a perfect run and disaster. When we walk up this track, we walk up with our coaches. And my coach, a Swiss philosophical man, we not only talk about the lines in the track, we also talk about life. Which got me thinking, what can you learn from bobsled? With a track like this, with so many twists and turns, what can you actually learn here? A lot, come to find out. So taking a bobsled trip starts with a warm-up. It starts with having a plan, much like life. In life, we set plans to set our goals. We have plans to help us establish our goals. Now, these plans have to adapt. We have to know what we're getting into and what we look forward to getting out of it. In bobsled, we have to warm up in temperatures sometimes minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius. At that temperature, it really doesn't matter either way. We warm up to push a 400-pound sled as fast as we can for 5 seconds before hopping in, and we warm up to wear something like this, which is nothing more than a bathing suit with arms and legs. Very thin, not warm at all. So as you can imagine, we have to have a concrete plan for this warm-up. As you can see this athlete here, she's taken a different approach to warming up, but something that we can use to learn about life. Even though we have really great plans sometimes, we have to be flexible, we have to be adaptable, and most importantly, we have to have fun. The next part of the bobsled track is the start. Now this is where we take what we've done in the warm-up, we use all that aggression and acceleration into the sled. In bobsled, as I navigate the sled down the track, I'm actually slowing the sled down. Every time you drive, it creates friction, and this friction slows the sled down. So our goal as pilots is to do as little driving as possible while to still get the sled down fastly and safely. However, we don't have a motor on the sled. The only time you can accelerate the sled is this time, at the start. So it's very important that as fast as possible. There's no repeats, there's no catching up for your mistakes. A race can be lost at the start. Much like in life, it's how we start a project that matters most. Do we start it enthusiastically, with a lot of energy, or do we start it on a negative vibe? How we start it, nonetheless, is going to make all the difference in the world. One of the other parts of a track is a straightaway. A straightaway is exactly as it sounds. It's straight. But as you'll see in this next clip, sometimes the straightaways can be the most difficult parts.
21 sleds, only 20 will make it in. Simone Battazzo yesterday sat in the start of the two-man. He's going to push here, but I'm not sure how far. No, he's not. He is going to sit in. So this Italian sled is going to struggle now. 3 men pushing what 4 men would normally push, but they've just added another 95 kilos to the weight of the sled because the driver is sitting in, so it's even heavier and there's less power. Oh, and there's a dreadful load, and that was Sergio Riva, I think, struggling to get his legs in.
So knowing what you know now about the start, obviously that is not how to start a bobsled race. That is a 4-man bobsled. Very intricate and very difficult event. And one that I took on this year as part of my destination. So leading into this year, I was at a point in my career where I was headed for a fantastic season. I was coming off a silver medal in the Sochi Olympics, and there was nothing to stop me. Sometimes when we have these straightaways in life, the smooth parts, we actually can make them a little bit more difficult for ourselves. Just because we do doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. For me, I made my life a little bit more difficult by adding a 4-man discipline into my repertoire. Previously, women have not been allowed to drive 4-man sleds. The last woman to compete in 4-man competition was in 1940, a woman by the name of Catherine Dewey. When she competed, she won the U.S. National Championships. After that, someone decided that women shouldn't drive bobsleds anymore, and they've been banned ever since. But this year, they changed the rule. And I took it on, even though it would make my life a little bit choppier, because I wanted the challenge, and I became the first woman to win a gold medal or a medal in an international bobsled event for 4-man. An omega curve. Now this is an actual picture. This was at the Olympic track in Sochi. I don't know how that sled got there, but it is an actual picture, but all the athletes were okay, the athletes competed, and they were fine. But needless to say, a sled should not be in this position. Now when we talk about omega curve, we're talking about a C-shaped curve. When you stand at the entrance of a curve, you can literally look across and see the exit. Now, from our geometry, we know that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So you wonder when you're walking through as a pilot, why do I have to go all the way around? Well, much like life, there's a lot of things that can be learned by taking the long way around. I grew up in Douglasville, Georgia, and I dreamed of being an Olympian since the age of 9. And being from here, I thought it would be in a summer sport. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. So I played softball, I played professionally, I played collegiately, and went on to have an Olympic tryout. The moment I was waiting for, I was so excited. But when I got to this tryout, it was an absolute disaster. I was swinging at balls over my head, so it wasn't going to work out, and softball was taken out of the Olympic Games. So I thought my dream was crushed. However, my parents saw bobsled on TV. They're those kinds of people who know sports. They know a lot about sports. They watch a lot of different sports, so they saw bobsled on TV. Knowing that bobsled requires big, fast, and powerful people, they recommended I try it. So on a whim, and with my parents' suggestion, I emailed a coach and got invited up to Lake Placid, New York for a tryout. And 8 years later, I'm still competing. Now I asked myself, why didn't I just start bobsled when I was 18, right out of high school? Why couldn't I have found bobsled then and saved myself all the heartache of softball? Well, it's because those lessons I learned in softball helped me dividends now in this life of bobsledder. I love what I do, but I couldn't have done it without my softball background. The next part of the track is the Labyrinth. The Labyrinth is a series of back and forth curves. They're pretty smooth and they're a lot of fun. Very smooth curves, and these represent the times in life that should be smooth. This is the time where you just need to enjoy life. Smell the roses, if you will. Sometimes we spend too much time caught up in whatever we're doing that we don't stop and enjoy what's really going on around us. So in my first Olympics, I was fortunate enough to walk away with this. An Olympic bronze medal. So if you don't know much about Olympic history, the bronze medalists are by far the happy medalists of the podium. You are ecstatic just to be there. And no one can tell you anything, and I was exactly the same. This was a moment in my life where I was so excited, I was enjoying every moment. I just took this medal everywhere. I slept with it on. I wore it everywhere I could, including to Wendy's to get a free Frosty. Have to use your perks. But those are the moments we should enjoy. The next curve of a track is a kreisel. A kreisel is by far one of the most difficult tracks in a bobsled. It is a complete 360-degree track. Lots of pressure, and one of the hardest tracks to drive are tracks with kreisels. So as you can see, a track is a literal loop. Sometimes life throws us in a loop and even puts us on our heads. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, the guy who just fell out of the sled is my husband. He was okay, everything was fine. I actually now sign him up to slide with me every once in a while. Gets in the back of my sled. But that's what happens in bobsled. Crashes do happen sometimes. Sometimes we're literally put in a loop, but it's there to teach us something. So in the Sochi Olympics, we get 6 runs before the competition starts. 6 runs to perfect it. Now we come to training the second day, and we're getting ready to go down the track. We hop in the sled, load in the sled, and we're going down the track, and as I'm driving, we are going fast. Faster than I've ever been on this track before. We cross the finish line, and my brakeman, who's a rookie, is supposed to pull the brakes at this point. Unfortunately, because we were going so fast, she had trouble predicting our speed and where exactly we were. She pulled the brakes a little late, and all I could do while we screeched into a plastic barrier is just start screaming, and scream I did. As soon as we hit the plastic barrier, pieces of the sled shattered everywhere, all around me. I started screaming even more because I thought my Olympic journey was over. I sprinted up to the top of the track and told my coach my sled was in pieces. He radioed the mechanics, and the mechanics came down thinking I was being a little dramatic. When I saw the look on their faces, I knew we were in trouble. Fortunately for me, we have some of the best mechanics in the world. So they went into the Team USA house, which is a house designed for friends and families and whatnot to view the Olympics. They went inside and grabbed the sled we were actually using as a demonstration sled. You know, the sled people take pictures in and whatnot. They took it out of the Sochi village, put the pieces from that sled into my sled, and because of their hard work, I was able to win this. An Olympic silver medal. Life had literally put me on a loop. I thought my Olympics was over, but we came out of it stronger than ever before. The chicanes. So the chicanes are a straightaway, but they're a straightaway that has a little kink. So sometimes life throws us little kinks in the way, in times we think should be straight, but those kinks are there for a reason. When I was racing this year, I came in the track and I'd set the track record on the first run, which is a huge accomplishment. I was in the lead by 0.6 of a second. Just to put that in perspective, the difference between the gold and silver in Sochi was 1/10 of a second. So 0.6 of a second is a large margin. I was winning the race, but then I came down the second run and encountered some of these chicanes. Unfortunately, at that moment, I crashed. Now, I'd spent a lot of the season wondering why I crashed and why this would happen. But at that moment, I was forced to reanalyze my driving, to reanalyze what I was doing in the track. And that moment allowed me to win World Championships this year. And finally, we get to the finish, the outcome, the thing everybody's excited about.
Before, in 4 World Championships, has a non-German driver won gold in Winterberg. Elana Meyers Taylor led after 3 heats with 3 track records and a new start record. She didn't break the record on the final trip, but she did take the gold. The first American woman to win a bobsleigh World Championship gold ever, and the first to beat the Germans on their home ice in Winterberg.
As much as I enjoyed this moment and as happy I was to win my first World Championship, it really was about the journey to get there. It really was about those twists and turns that led me to get to that point. Those twists and turns down that mountain that helped me win that medal. And that's the same about life. Sometimes we're so focused on getting where we think we need to go that we forget to enjoy the process. We forget to enjoy the journey. But it really is the journey that's most important. So finally, what have I learned from a bobsled going at 90 miles per hour? Other than it's really, really cold. Those twists and turns we encounter in life, they're there for a reason. They teach us things. They motivate us to move forward and accomplish our goals. So despite the twists and turns you may encounter, learn from them. But most importantly, have some fun while doing it. Thank you.